Hey guys, tonight we are going to travel back, not just in time, but into a different way of seeing the world. We're heading to the rolling hills of 19th century Zulu land, in what is now modern-day South Africa, to spend some time as an apprentice to a traditional healer. Now, to be clear, this is the deep immersion experience. There's no Wi-Fi, no memory foam mattress, and the morning alarm clock is just the sun deciding it's done sleeping. It's a world of quiet ritual, deep knowledge of the land, and a profound connection to those who came before. Frankly, you probably wouldn't survive this. Your back would hurt from the sleeping mat, and you'd ask where the coffee is within 5 minutes. But for tonight, you're a natural asterisk. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a quiet, no pressure kind of request. And while you're at it, I love to see where everyone is listening from. Let me know in the comments what city you're in and what time it is there. It's a nice way to feel connected as we all unwind together across the globe. Asterisk now. Dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Asterisk, you don't so much wake up as drift into awareness. There is no sudden jolt, no jarring sound. One moment, you are lost in a deep, dreamless sleep, and the next, you are simply here. The air is the first thing you notice. It's cool, and carries the scent of dry grass, old wood smoke, and something else, a clean, earthy smell you can't quite place. You are lying on a firm mat woven from reeds. The texture, a gentle, bumpy press against your back and legs. It is nothing like your bed back home, and yet, your body feels surprisingly rested. Above you, the darkness is not complete. A faint, milky gray light filters down from a small opening at the very peak of the domed ceiling, which seems to curve down around you like a protective shell. Asterisk, you are inside an indaloo, a traditional Zulu beehive hut. It's a marvel of engineering, a framework of strong, flexible saplings bent and tied into a perfect dome, then covered in layers of tightly woven thatch grass. The floor beneath your mat, you remember from yesterday, is a mixture of earth and termite mound, polished to a hard, smooth, dark sheen with cow dung. It sounds rustic, to put it mildly, but it's surprisingly clean, warm, and keeps the insects at bay. The elder, your mentor, had explained with a patient smile that the earth knows how to keep a home clean. Asterisk, slowly, carefully, you sit up. The silence is profound. It's not an empty silence, but one filled with a low, distant hum, the sound of the world before engines. You can just make out the shape of the hut's single entrance, a low, rounded opening covered by a simple wooden plank. You recall ducking so low to get inside that you nearly fell over, much to the quiet amusement of the children. These low doorways weren't just for structural reasons. They forced every visitor, no matter their status, to enter with a bow, a built-in sign of respect for the home and its family, a lesson in humility. Before you've even said hello, you've already bumped your head twice. Asterisk, a soft rustling sound comes from the other side of the small, circular room. It's her, your teacher, She is already awake, a dark silhouette against the faint light, wrapping a simple goatskin cloak around her shoulders. She moves with a quiet economy of motion, each step deliberate and soft. There is no wasted energy, no hurry. She simply is. You watch, feeling like a clumsy foal, as she unlatches the door plank and slips outside. The cool morning air rushes in, carrying the scent of dew on thirsty earth. It's an invitation. Asterisk, following her lead, you crawl towards the opening and emerge into the pre-dawn world. The sight stops your breath. The homestead, or umuzi, is a circle of these grass huts. Their dark forms like sleeping animals, arranged around a large central enclosure, fenced with thorny branches. Beyond, the land rolls away in immense, velvety waves of hills, their tops just beginning to catch a pale, violet light from the east. The sky above is a deep, star-flecked indigo, fading to a soft periwinkle at the horizon. Not a single artificial light contaminates the view. The air is so clean it feels like the first breath you've ever truly taken. Asterisk, your mentor stands near, the center of the homestead, facing the coming dawn. She hasn't spoken a word to you, but you know you are meant to join her. Your bare feet make no sound on the hard-packed earth as you come to stand beside her. For a long moment, she just stands, breathing slowly and deeply, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Is she praying? Meditating? You wonder about her exact role. People call her isangoma, the one who communes with the ancestors to find the spiritual root of illness. But you have also seen her work with plants and herbs, with the detailed knowledge of an inyanga, a master herbalist. Historians still wonder about the distinction between these roles in centuries past, whether they were always separate specializations, or if they were once a single, fluid practice of holistic healing. Looking at her now, a figure of immense calm and knowledge, it seems impossible to separate the physical from the spiritual. They seem to be woven together in her very being. Asterisk, she finally turns her head slightly, her eyes crinkling at the corners. The sun does not ask for permission to rise, she says, her voice a low, gentle rasp. And the ancestors do not need a loud voice to hear. A quiet heart is enough. She gestures with her chin towards the east, where a sliver of brilliant orange is now cresting the farthest hill. Greet the day, she instructs softly. Thank those who walked this path before you, for they cleared it with their feet. Ask for clear eyes to see what is needed, and steady hands to do the work. Asterisk, and so you do. You stand beside her, a strange apprentice from another time, and you watch the sun spill liquid gold across the land. You don't speak aloud, but in the quiet of your own mind, you offer a simple, silent thanks. A sense of peace settles over you, as vast and as quiet as the landscape itself. This is the first lesson. Before any herbs are gathered, before any remedies are mixed, there is this, the ritual of waking, of being present, and of acknowledging your small, humble place in a very large, very old world. Asterisk, the final arc of the sun clears the distant hill, and the light shifts from gentle gold to a brighter, clearer white. The world is officially awake. Your mentor gives a single, slow nod, a gesture that seems to say, "Good, that is done." Without another word, she turns and walks back toward her hut, her bare feet making soft, dusty puffs on the ground. You follow, unsure of what comes next. Is it breakfast? More silent contemplation? A pop quiz on 19th century Zulu social etiquette? You sincerely hope it's the first option. Asterisk, she ducks inside her home and re-emerges a moment later, carrying 2 clay pots. They are beautiful, rounded vessels, a deep, smoky black with intricate geometric patterns etched into the surface around the neck. The patterns are not painted on, but rather painstakingly incised into the clay before it was fired. She hands one to you. It's heavier than you expect, and cool to the touch. The surface is burnished to a soft, pleasing sheen, smooth and slightly uneven under your fingertips. This is an ukamba, a pot used for carrying water or traditional beer. Its round base makes it impossible to set down on a flat surface. A clever design feature that means it must either be held, cradled in a woven grass ring, or sunk slightly into the soft earth of the hut floor, protecting its precious contents. Asterisk, your mentor points with her chin down a narrow, well-worn path leading away from the homestead. The river, she says, the first direct instruction of the day. We do not speak on the path. We listen. Listen to what you want to ask. But the look on her face suggests the question is the answer. So you just nod, trying to look like a serious, dedicated apprentice, and not someone who is deeply concerned about their balance and the welfare of this beautiful wobbly pot. Asterisk. The two of you set off, her in the lead, you following a few paces behind. The path is a thin, dusty ribbon, snaking through tall, pale grass that's still heavy with dew. The droplets cling to the stalks like tiny jewels, and they soak the hem of your simple calfskin skirt as you walk. The air is alive now. Birds you don't recognize are calling to each other in a complex chorus of whistles, clicks, and chirps. In the distance, you hear the lowing of cattle, the backbone of the Zulu economy and culture. The sun is warm on your shoulders, a pleasant contrast to the cool air that still lingers in the shadows. Your mind, usually a frantic buzz of to-do lists and stray thoughts, begins to settle. Without the option to talk, or check a phone, or even hum a tune, you are left with only the rhythm of your own footsteps. Crunch, swish, crunch, swish, against the dry earth and wet grass. This, you realize, is what she meant by listening. After about 15 minutes, the sound of rushing water joins the morning symphony. The path slopes downward, and through a screen of dense riverine bush, you see it, a wide, shallow river, sparkling in the morning sun. The water is startlingly clear, tumbling over smooth, gray, and ochre-colored stones. Mist still hovers in a thin veil just above the surface. It feels ancient and untouched. Your mentor doesn't break her stride. She walks directly to the water's edge, finds a large, flat rock, and gracefully kneels. She places her pot beside her and then dips her cupped hands into the current. She brings the water to her face, her neck, and her arms in a series of slow, deliberate movements. Listen, she gestures with her head toward her own hut, the one you woke up in. Come, she says simply. The sun is up, but the day's work begins in the shade. You follow her inside, ducking low through the familiar entrance. The transition from the bright, open air to the cool, dim interior is immediate and comforting. It takes a moment for your eyes to adjust. The air is thick with the scent of wood smoke and dried herbs, a fragrance that seems to cling to the very grass of the walls. In the center of the hut is a small, circular depression in the polished floor, the hearth, or aziko. It is cold, the ashes from last night's fire, a soft, uniform gray. Your mentor kneels beside it, her movements unhurried. From a worn leather pouch, she takes a few pieces of dried kindling, arranging them in a small, airy pile. Then comes the magic. She takes 2 specific sticks, one with a small notch, and begins to rub them together with a patience that you find both astounding and slightly stressful. You, who can get frustrated waiting 5 seconds for a web page to load, are watching a master of friction. For a long moment, nothing happens. Then, a tiny wisp of smoke, thin as a thread, curls upward. She leans in, blowing a soft, steady breath, and a minuscule orange ember glows to life. Within a minute, a small, clean flame is dancing in the hearth, casting a warm, flickering light around the hut. She sits back on her heels, watching the flames as if they held a story. The fire illuminates her face, carving deep, gentle lines around her eyes and mouth. You notice now the collection of items that occupy the curved walls of her home. There are gourds of all shapes and sizes hanging from the roof struts, some holding seeds, others clearly for water. Bundles of dried leaves and roots are tied neatly with grass twine. Coils of vibrant beadwork and a few soft animal skins are stacked in a tidy pile. This isn't just a home. It's a laboratory, a pharmacy, and a sanctuary, all in one. Before we touch a single leaf, she begins, her voice low and melodic, blending with the crackle of the fire. You must understand where the healing comes from. She pauses, letting the statement settle in the quiet space between you. It does not come from me. It does not come from the plant. It comes from those who came before. The amadlozi. The word feels significant, heavy with meaning. The ancestors. You've heard the term, of course. But the way she says it implies something far more immediate and active than a dusty family tree. They aren't ghosts in the spooky chain-rattling sense you might be used to. She seems to read your mind. They are not shadows, she clarifies. They are the roots of the tree that is your family. You are a leaf on a high branch, but without the roots, you would be nothing. You would have no water, no strength. You would simply blow away. It's a beautiful metaphor, simple and profound. Your own ancestors probably just wish you'd text them back more often. Asterisk. She explains that the amadlozi are the intermediaries between the living and the great creator. They are the guardians of tradition, the keepers of family knowledge, and crucially, they are deeply invested in your well-being. This is the core historical fact of Zulu cosmology. Health and fortune are directly linked to maintaining a good relationship with one's ancestors. Illness, misfortune, or persistent bad luck are often interpreted not as random chance, but as a sign that the amadlozi are displeased or are trying to send a message. A cough, she explains, gesturing toward her own chest, is not just a sickness of the lungs. It is a voice. The ancestors are trying to tell us something is out of balance. Your job, as a healer, is not just to treat the cough. It's to find out why they are speaking in the first place. Asterisk, but how do you hear them? You ask, the question feeling both impossibly vast and deeply personal. Asterisk, her eyes twinkle in the firelight. You must learn to listen with more than your ears. She tells you they communicate in 100 different ways, a language of signs and symbols. A dream can be a direct message. A certain kind of snake, a non-venomous brown house snake, for instance, appearing inside the hut, isn't a pest to be shooed away, but a respected visitor, a physical manifestation of a spirit. It's a quirky detail that reframes the world entirely. Your great-grandfather might just be stopping by for a visit, disguised as a reptile. Other signs are more subtle, a twitching eyelid, a persistent ringing in the ears, the call of a specific bird at an unusual time. The world, you begin to understand, is not a collection of random events. It's a constant, flowing conversation. You just need to learn the language. Asterisk, she leans forward, her expression serious but kind. A healer is, first, a listener, an interpreter. The plants are our tools, our words, but the diagnosis, the deep understanding of the problem, comes from them. It's a heavy responsibility. The well-being of the community rests on her ability to correctly interpret these subtle, spiritual messages. Historians and anthropologists still debate the nature of this communication. Was it seen as a literal, metaphysical dialogue? Or was it a deeply sophisticated psychological framework for understanding and resolving communal and individual anxieties? Did the ancestors speak in audible whispers, or in the quiet, undeniable language of intuition? Looking at your mentor's calm, confident face, you suspect the answer is, simply, yes. It was all of those things at once. Asterisk, the small fire has burned down to glowing coals, and the hut is filled with a comfortable warmth. Your arms have stopped aching. Your mind, however, is buzzing with this new perspective. Every ailment is a story. Every natural event is a potential word in a sentence. It's an immense and complex way of seeing the world, one that makes your own life feel strangely simple, and yet profoundly disconnected. She has given you the key, the foundational piece of knowledge, upon which everything else will be built. The work of healing, you now understand, is the work of listening. Asterisk, now that the spiritual foundation is laid. Your mentor decides it's time for the practical curriculum to begin. The fire has settled into a bed of warm orange coals, and the sun is high enough that the hut's interior is no longer dim, but filled with a soft, diffused light. The ancestors speak, she says, rising to her feet in that same, single fluid motion, but the earth provides the ink. She gestures for you to follow her back outside. Asterisk, you emerge from the cool darkness of the Indaloo, and are met with the full warmth of the mid-morning sun. The air is clear, and the sounds of the homestead are in full swing. Now the distant laughter of children, the rhythmic thud of someone grinding maize, and the soft clucking of chickens scratching in the dust. Your mentor leads you not out of the homestead, but to a small fenced-off area just behind her hut. It's a garden, but it looks nothing like the neat, orderly rows you're used to. This is a chaotic, beautiful tangle of life. Plants of all shapes and sizes grow in a dense community, some sprawling low to the ground, others reaching up on woody stems. It looks wild, untamed, but as she begins to move through it, you see the subtle order. Small pathways, barely visible, wind between the clusters of plants, and you can tell that every single resident of this plot is here for a reason. Asterisk, this is the isangoma, she says, her hand sweeping over the green tapestry. The plants I need most often, my nearest helpers. It's a living pharmacy, a carefully curated collection of the most essential and frequently used medicinal herbs. She explains that while many potent remedies must be foraged in the wild hills, cultivating these staples nearby saves precious time, especially when someone is in urgent need. Asterisk, she kneels beside a low-growing plant with fleshy, succulent leaves dotted with pale spots. It looks a bit like an aloe vera, but not quite. Union, she says, pointing to it. She plucks a single thick leaf and snaps it in half. A clear, viscous gel oozes out. She hands it to you. The gel is cool and slippery, with a faint, clean scent. For burns, she explains, from the fire or the sun. It soothes the heat and tells the skin to be calm. A simple, widely accepted historical fact is the use of various aloe species across Africa for skin ailments, a practice as old as the continent itself. This plant, you learn, is also used to treat minor wounds and insect bites. It's a go-to, an all-purpose balm that lives right outside her door. You rub the gel on the back of your hand. It feels cool and instantly soothing. It's asterisk next. She moves to a taller, shrub-like plant with slender silvery green leaves. She gently rubs one between her thumb and forefinger, then holds it up to your nose. The fragrance is incredibly sharp, clean, camphoraceous scent that seems to clear your head instantly. Insomnia, she says. The leaves we boil in water. The steam opens the chest when a cough is tight. You recognize the strategy, if not the plant. It's a traditional steam inhalation, a remedy used in countless cultures around the world to treat respiratory congestion. She adds that a tea made from the leaves can help soothe a fever, telling the body to release its inner fire. Asterisk, she continues the tour, a walking encyclopedia of the natural world. Each plant has a name, a purpose, a story. There's umathithabala, the one that causes sleepiness. A plant with roots that are ground into a powder and made into a gentle sedative for those troubled by anxiety or sleepless nights. She points out a plant with broad, velvety leaves called indulbu. Your lesson in the isangoma is over, but your botanical education for the day has only just begun. The curated collection behind the hut is for the everyday and the urgent. But the truly potent and sacred medicines, your mentor explains, do not like to be tamed. They must be sought out in their own homes, on their own terms. The earth does not give up her strongest secrets, easily, she says. Her eyes gazing toward the hills that roll away from the homestead. We must walk to them, and we must ask properly. Asterisk, she slips back into her hut for a moment, and emerges with a small, woven grass basket and a digging stick, a simple tool. Just a sturdy branch with one end sharpened and fire-hardened to a point. She hands the basket to you. It's light as a feather, but woven with a tight, strong coil that makes it surprisingly rigid. You feel like a very serious, very underqualified assistant on a vital mission. Asterisk, you set off, leaving the familiar sounds of the umuzi behind. This time you take a different path, one that leads away from the river and up into the sweeping grasslands known as the veldt. The sun is higher now, and the heat radiates up from the dry earth, but a gentle breeze keeps it from being overwhelming. The landscape that looked like a uniform sea of green from a distance is up close, a complex and diverse ecosystem. The grass is dotted with countless other plants, wildflowers in bursts of yellow and purple, hardy succulents clinging to rocky outcrops, and thorny shrubs that command a wide berth. Your mentor walks with a purpose you can't yet understand. Her eyes are constantly scanning, not just ahead, but from side to side, reading the landscape like a map. She isn't looking for a path. She is reading the subtle clues in the vegetation itself. She points to a patch of slightly different colored grass. The soil is wetter there, she observes, good for roots that need to drink deep. She notes a cluster of ferns growing in the shade of a small boulder. Some plants are shy. They hide from the sun's full gaze. It's a masterclass in ecological observation. She knows which plants keep company with others, the type of soil they prefer, the amount of sun or shade they need to thrive. This is a widely accepted fact of indigenous knowledge systems worldwide. Foraging is not a random search, but a highly scientific process based on generations of accumulated environmental data. After a while, she stops, holding up a hand for you to do the same. She stands perfectly still, her head cocked as if listening, but the only sounds are the wind in the grass and the distant cry of a hawk. Before we take, she says in a low voice, we announce ourselves. We tell the spirits of this place why we have come. She murmurs a few words in Zulu, too soft for you to catch them all, but you hear the tone. It's gentle, respectful, and clear. It's not a prayer of begging, but a statement of intent. A request for permission from the unseen guardians of the land. Then, she begins her search in earnest. She walks in a slow, circling pattern, her gaze fixed on the ground. She's looking for something specific. You try to help, scanning the ground for, well, you're not sure what. It all just looks like plants. She lets you search for a few minutes, a quiet test of your untrained eyes. Finally, she makes a soft sound and kneels. Here, she says. You hurry over. Growing almost flush with the ground is a small plant with a rosette of unremarkable gray-green leaves. It's so unassuming you've probably walked past a dozen of them already. This, she tells you, is a powerful plant whose roots are used in medicines for calming chest complaints and soothing deep, persistent coughs. Here. She introduces you to one of the most important and lesser-known rules of ethical foraging, we never take the first one we find, she explains. The first one is the scout. It tells us there are others nearby. We greet it, and we leave it to stand guard. She then points a few feet away, where another, slightly larger specimen is growing, and we never take the whole plant. The plant has a family. We take only what we need, so it can continue to live and provide for others after us. This principle of sustainability is woven into the very fabric of her practice. It's a profound respect for the regenerative power of nature, ensuring that the pharmacy of the wild is never depleted. She takes her digging stick and begins to carefully loosen the soil around the second plant, her movements precise and gentle. She isn't just hacking at the ground. She's performing a kind of delicate surgery, working to free the root without damaging the main plant. After a few minutes of careful work, she extracts a section of the thick, tuberous root, leaving the rest of the plant intact. Before she places it in your basket, she does something peculiar. She takes a small white bead from a pouch at her waist and pushes it into the soft earth where the root used to be. It's an offering, a a gift, in return for the gift that was taken. A token of thanks. Historians often debate the specific meanings of these offerings. Was it a symbolic payment, a spiritual appeasement, or a simple act of gratitude? To you, watching this quiet, humble exchange, it feels like all three. It's a transaction of pure respect. She places the earthy root into your basket, its soil still clinging to it. The rest of the walk is a treasure hunt. She finds a creeping vine, whose leaves will be dried for a stomach-soothing tea. and a type of wild mint that will be used for headaches. With each plant, the ritual is the same. Announce your presence, find the plant, greet the first one, take only a small part of the second, and leave an offering of thanks. By the time you turn back toward the homestead, your basket holds a small but potent collection of roots and leaves. It's not heavy, but it feels weighty with the responsibility and the knowledge it represents. You walked out here with an empty basket and an empty mind. You are walking back with the beginnings of a harvest and the much more important understanding of how it is earned. You arrive back at the homestead as the sun begins its slow descent from its midday peak. The heat is no longer climbing. It is settled into a steady, comfortable warmth, and the air is filled with the drone of insects. Your legs ache slightly from the long walk, and you are acutely aware of the precious, earthy-smelling contents of the basket you carry. Your mentor leads you back to her hut, but instead of going inside, she guides you to a shaded spot just outside the low doorway, where a large flat stone sits next to a smaller, rounded one. This is her workshop, her grinding station. She takes the basket from you and carefully lays out the morning's harvest on a clean animal hide. The roots are still caked with the dark, rich soil of the veldt, and the leaves are beginning to wilt slightly in the heat. The first step, she demonstrates, is cleaning, using a small amount of the water you so painstakingly carried from the river. She washes the roots, her fingers expertly scrubbing away the dirt to reveal the pale flesh beneath. She hands one to you, and you mimic her actions, finding a simple meditative pleasure in the act of washing away the earth. Once everything is clean, the real work begins. She introduces you to the rhythmic heart of herbal preparation. She takes a handful of dried leaves from a gourd knot, the ones you just picked. She explains, as those must first be dried slowly in the shade for several days, and places them on the flat grinding stone, the imbo. She then takes the smaller, handheld stone, the isangoma, and begins to crush them. The sound is one you've been hearing in the background all day. A steady, hypnotic shuff-thump that seems to be the very pulse of the homestead. It's the sound of maize being ground into meal, of ochre being powdered for decoration, and, here, of medicine being made. She works with an efficiency that is mesmerizing. Her whole body is involved in the process, a gentle rocking motion that puts her weight behind the stone, turning the brittle leaves into a coarse, fragrant powder. After a few moments, she stops and gestures for you to take over. You kneel before the stone, pick up the isangoma. It's heavier than it looks. Smooth and cool in your hand, and try to copy her movement. Your first few attempts are a clumsy disaster. You're all arms, scraping the stone awkwardly and sending little bits of leaf flying everywhere. You feel foolish, like a child trying to use their parents' tools. She watches you for a moment, that familiar, faint smile on her lips. She doesn't criticize. She simply reaches out and adjusts your posture, showing you how to lean into the rhythm, to let the weight of the stone do the work. Patience, she says softly. The stone knows the way. You just have to follow. You close your eyes for a second, focusing on the sound and the feel of the stone on stone. You find the rhythm. Shuff-thump, shuff-thump. It's a slow, deliberate process. There is no rushing this. The leaves break down, their scent intensifying, a clean, herbaceous aroma that fills the air around you. You realize this is a core part of the process. This slow, manual grinding isn't just a means to an end. It's an act of transformation. It's an infusion of intention and energy into the medicine itself. The end product is a small pile of greenish-brown powder. This, she explains, is muthi. The term is often misunderstood, but it simply means medicine in isisu, derived from the word for tree. It encompasses a vast range of remedies, from simple herbal teas to complex mixtures used in protective rituals. The historical fact is that muthi is not one thing, but an entire system of plant-based pharmacology. She shows you different preparations, Some powders are mixed with a small amount of water or animal fat to create a paste, or isambazo to be applied to the skin. Other herbs are burned, their smoke inhaled to clear the sinuses or to ritually purify a space. Some of the roots you gathered will be boiled to create a decoction, a strong medicinal tea. The quirky detail you learn is about dosage. There are no milligrams or precisely measured teaspoons here. Dosage is often determined by sight and experience, using natural measures like a pinch of powder the size of an ant's head, or a piece of root the length of your thumb's first knuckle. It's a system based on deep familiarity and intuition, not standardized chemistry. She takes one of the fresh roots you gathered, and shows you how it must be sliced into thin discs and laid out on a woven mat to dry in a shady, airy spot. The sun is a strong healer, she says, but its full power can burn the medicine out of a plant. We must be gentle. This understanding of how to properly dry and preserve plant matter is a crucial, often overlooked, part of the process. A poorly prepared remedy is an ineffective one. Historians and botanists still debate the precise chemical efficacy of some of these preparations. Without modern labs, how did healers determine which plants worked? The answer, most likely, was a millennium of trial, error, and careful observation, with knowledge passed down and refined through generations. Was a certain root effective because of its active alkaloids, or because the patient and the healer believed so strongly in its power? A powerful placebo effect? The Zulu healer would not see a distinction. The spirit of the plant, the intention of the healer, the faith of the patient, and the chemical compounds of the root were all part of the same holistic event. Healing was not just a chemical reaction, it was a restoration of balance. As you continue your slow, rhythmic grinding, the world shrinks to the circle of the stone. The sun moves across the sky, your muscles settle into the work, and your mind grows quiet, focused only on the task at hand. You are not just making powder. You are participating in an ancient, unbroken chain of knowledge, one stone grinding against another, transforming the gifts of the earth into the possibility of healing. Asterisk, you arrive back at the homestead as the sun begins its slow descent from its midday peak. The heat is no longer climbing. It has settled into a steady, comfortable warmth, and the air is filled with the drone of insects. Your legs ache slightly from the long walk, and you are acutely aware of the precious, earthy-smelling contents of the basket you carry. Your mentor leads you back to her hut, but instead of going inside, she guides you to a shaded spot just outside the low doorway, where a large flat stone sits next to a smaller, rounded one. This is her workshop. Her grinding station. Asterisk. She takes the basket from you and carefully lays out the morning's harvest on a clean animal hide. The roots are still caked with the dark, rich soil of the veldt, and the leaves are beginning to wilt slightly in the heat. The first step, she demonstrates, is cleaning, using a small amount of the water you so painstakingly carried from the river. She washes the roots, her fingers expertly scrubbing away the dirt to reveal the pale flesh beneath. She hands one to you, and you mimic her actions, finding a simple, meditative pleasure in the act of washing away the earth. Asterisk. Once everything is clean, the real work begins. She introduces you to the rhythmic heart of herbal preparation. She takes a handful of dried leaves from a gourd knot, the ones you just picked, she explains, as those must first be dried slowly in the shade for several days, and places them on the flat grinding stone. She then takes the smaller, handheld stone, the isangoma, and begins to crush them. The sound is one you've been hearing in the background all day, a steady hypnotic shuff thump that seems to be the very pulse of the homestead. It's the sound of maize being ground into meal, of ochre being powdered for decoration, and, here, of medicine being made. Asterisk. She works with an efficiency that is mesmerizing. Her whole body is involved in the process, a gentle rocking motion that puts her weight behind the stone, turning the brittle leaves into a coarse, fragrant powder. After a few moments, she stops and gestures for you to take over. You kneel before the stone, pick up the isangoma. It's heavier than it looks. Smooth and cool in your hand and try to copy her movement. Your first few attempts are a clumsy disaster. You're all arms, scraping the stone awkwardly and sending little bits of leaf flying everywhere. You feel foolish, like a child trying to use their parents' tools. Asterisk, she watches you for a moment, that familiar faint smile on her lips. She doesn't criticize. She simply reaches out and adjusts your posture, showing you how to lean into the rhythm, to let the weight of the stone do the work. Patience, she says softly. The stone knows the way. You just have to follow. You close your eyes for a second, focusing on the sound and the feel of the stone on stone. You find the rhythm. Shuft thump. Shuft thump. It's a slow, deliberate process. There is no rushing this. The leaves break down, their scent intensifying, a clean herbaceous aroma that fills the air around you. You realize this is a core part of the process. This slow manual grinding isn't just a means to an end. It's an act of transformation. It's an infusion of intention and energy into the medicine itself. Asterisk, the end product is a small pile of greenish-brown powder. This, she explains, is muthi. The term is often misunderstood, but it simply means medicine in Zulu, derived from the word for tree. It encompasses a vast range of remedies, from simple herbal teas to complex mixtures used in protective rituals. The historical fact is that muthi is not one thing, but an entire system of plant-based pharmacology. Asterisk, she shows you different preparations. Some powders are mixed with a small amount of water or animal fat to create a paste, or a salambezo to be applied to the skin. Other herbs are burned, their smoke inhaled to clear the sinuses or to ritually purify a space. Some of the roots you gathered will be boiled to create a decoction, a strong medicinal tea. The quirky detail you learn is about dosage. There are no milligrams or precisely measured teaspoons here. Dosage is often determined by sight and experience, using natural measures like a pinch of powder the size of an ant's head, or a piece of root the length of your thumb's first knuckle. It's a system based on deep familiarity and intuition, not standardized chemistry. She takes one of the fresh roots you gathered, the eco-kello asterisk, and shows you how it must be sliced into thin discs and laid out on a woven mat to dry in a shady, airy spot. The sun is a strong healer, she says, but its full power can burn the medicine out of a plant. We must be gentle. This understanding of how to properly dry and preserve plant matter is a crucial, often overlooked, part of the process. A poorly prepared remedy is an ineffective one. Asterisk, historians and botanists still debate the precise chemical efficacy of some of these preparations. Without modern labs, how did healers determine which plants worked? The answer, most likely, was a millennium of trial, error, and careful observation, with knowledge passed down and refined through generations. Was a certain root effective because of its active alkaloids, or because the patient and the healer believed so strongly in its power? A powerful placebo effect. The Zulu healer would not see a distinction. The spirit of the plant, the intention of the healer, the faith of the patient, and the chemical compounds of the root were all part of the same holistic event. Healing was not just a chemical reaction. It was a restoration of balance. Asterisk, as you continue your slow, rhythmic grinding, the world shrinks to the circle of the stone. The sun moves across the sky, your muscles settle into the work, and your mind grows quiet, focused only on the task at hand. You are not just making powder. You are participating in an ancient, unbroken chain of knowledge. One stone grinding against another, transforming the gifts of the earth into the possibility of healing. The sun has softened, its light turning a warm, honeyed yellow, and the shadows of the huts are stretching long across the homestead. The physical work of foraging and grinding is done for the day. Your basket is empty, and a small collection of neatly prepared herbs and roots are drying on a mat in the shade. You feel a sense of quiet satisfaction, the pleasant ache in your muscles a testament to a day of meaningful labor. But your mentor makes it clear that the day's most important lesson is yet to come. The body has been attended to. Now you must learn to see the spirit. Asterisk. She leads you back inside her hut. The interior is cool and smells of dust, smoke, and the sharp, clean scent of the muthi you were just grinding. She gestures for you to sit on a mat opposite the cold hearth, and she settles herself across from you. For a moment, she is silent, her eyes closed, her breathing slow and deep. She seems to be gathering herself, shifting her focus from the outer world to an inner one. When she opens her eyes, her gaze is distant, as if she is looking at something far beyond the curved grass walls of the hut. Asterisk from a worn leather bag tucked in a corner. She carefully withdraws a collection of objects and spills them onto a small animal hide spread between you. It's a strange and fascinating assortment. There are bones, the small delicate ankle bones of goats and antelope, known as There are shells, some from the distant coast, others from freshwater snails. There are a few carved pieces of wood, a bird's claw, a curiously shaped stone, and even a couple of old, weathered dominoes, a sign of the slow creep of trade and contact with the outside world. This is her Hakata, her divination set. Asterisk. The ancestors do not always speak in dreams or whispers, she says, her voice a low hum. Sometimes, their voices are tangled, confused. This, she gestures to the collection, helps us to hear them more clearly. It is a way to make the patterns of the spirit world visible. This is the art of ukabula, the practice of divination, a cornerstone of the isangoma's diagnostic toolkit. Asterisk. She explains that each item in the set holds a specific meaning. One large bone might represent an adult male, a smaller one, a child. A certain type of shell could signify a journey or a message coming from far away. The gnarled piece of wood might represent a problem with deep, tangled roots. The set is deeply personal. No two are exactly alike. A healer gathers or inherits her pieces over a lifetime, and their meanings are refined through years of practice and communication with her guiding spirits. The accepted historical fact is that these bone sets were, and still are, a sophisticated tool for psychological and social diagnosis, allowing the diviner to explore a client's troubles through a symbolic lens. Asterisk. The bones do not tell the future, she clarifies, correcting a common misconception. The future is a river with many currents. The bones show us the patterns that are flowing now. They show us the blockages. They show us where the river is struggling to run. Asterisk. She gathers the entire collection into her cupped hands, the bones and shells making a dry, rattling sound like stones in a gourd. She shakes them, her eyes closed again, her lips moving in a silent chant. You feel a shift in the energy of the small hut, a sense of heightened focus and intention. It's not frightening, but it is powerful. Then, with a sharp exhalation, she casts them onto the hide. Asterisk. They scatter in a seemingly random pattern. To your eyes, it's just a jumble. But she leans forward, her gaze intense, and for her, this is a detailed map. Her finger hovers over the hide, not touching, as she begins to read the story laid out before her. Ah, she murmurs. You see here? She points to a bone representing a man, which has landed close to a shell that signifies wealth, but it is upside down. The man worries about his cattle, but the problem is not with the animals. Her finger then traces a path to another piece, a dark, smooth stone representing sorrow, which has landed touching the man's bone. The blockage is here. His heart is heavy from a past sadness, and this is making his spirit weak. The ancestors are telling him his cattle feel his sorrow, and so they are not thriving. Asterisk. It's a fascinating, intuitive leap. She has taken a physical problem in healthy cattle and reframed it as a spiritual and emotional one. The quirky detail is in the specificity. She points to a tiny bone that has landed far from the others. And this one? This is a child. There is a child who is watching, who feels the man's sadness. The healing must include the child. She is not just diagnosing an individual. She is reading the health of an entire family system. Historians and psychologists still debate the mechanics of this. Is it cold reading, where the diviner picks up on subtle cues from the client? Is it a projection of the healer's own intuition, given form by the random fall of the bones? Or is it something else entirely, a genuine tapping into a different level of consciousness? Your mentor would say, it is the ancestors arranging the bones to spell out their message. As you watch her, you realize the question of how it works is less important than the fact that it does work. It provides a narrative, a framework for understanding suffering that is deeply resonant and culturally meaningful. It transforms a vague sense of anxiety into a specific story with characters, conflicts, and, most importantly, a potential resolution. She spends a long time explaining the different combinations, the significance of which pieces touch, which point in which direction, and which are isolated from the main cluster. It's a language as complex as any spoken tongue. You are a student of grammar, learning the nouns, the verbs, the syntax of a spiritual conversation. You won't touch the bones yourself today, or for many days to come. That is a privilege and responsibility that must be earned. For now, your job is simply to watch, to listen, and to begin to see the world not as a series of random events, but as a woven tapestry of meaning, where even the fall of a single bone can tell the story of a human heart. Just as the lesson on divination is winding down, and the shadows have grown so long they seem to merge with the earth, a sound from outside breaks the quiet focus of the hut. It's a soft call, a respectful greeting offered from a distance. Your mentor's focus snaps back to the present. She gives a calm, clear call in reply, an invitation to approach. With a sigh that seems to carry the weight of both the spiritual and physical worlds. She carefully sweeps her divination set back into its leather bag. The day's work is never done when the sun sets, she says to you. Only when the people are well. A moment later, a figure ducks low through the entrance. It's a young woman from the homestead, perhaps a few years older than you. Her face is etched with worry, and she cradles one arm protectively against her chest. She offers a respectful greeting, her eyes cast downward, and your mentor replies with a gentle warmth that immediately puts the visitor at ease. An exchange in easy Zulu follows, too rapid and nuanced for you to fully grasp. But you catch the key words: umkulin, a fever or cold; ukukwela, a cough; and ubuthongo, sleep. The young woman's husband, it seems, has been struck by a persistent cough and fever that has kept him from sleep for 2 nights. This is it. Your first chance to observe a real consultation. You make yourself as small and unobtrusive as possible, on your mat, an apprentice hoping to blend into the shadows. Your mentor gives you a quick, subtle glance that says, watch, listen, do not speak. The consultation begins not with a physical examination, but with a conversation. Your mentor's questions are gentle, patient, and surprisingly broad. She doesn't just ask about the cough. She asks about the husband's work, his mood, his dreams. She asks about the family, about recent visitors, about any unusual events that might have occurred around the homestead. She is gathering context, looking for the narrative behind the symptoms. The young woman answers haltingly at first, but your mentor's calm, non-judgmental presence encourages her to open up. She speaks of her husband's fatigue, his loss of appetite, and a deep sense of discouragement that has settled over him since one of their cattle went missing a week ago. Here, the pieces click into place. A lost cow is not just an economic setback. In this culture, it is a significant and distressing event, a potential sign of imbalance or ancestral displeasure. The cough, your mentor seems to be thinking, might just be the body's way of expressing this deeper anxiety and loss. This approach is a core historical fact of many indigenous healing systems. The patient is not an isolated collection of symptoms, but a whole person embedded in a complex web of social, spiritual, and environmental relationships. To treat the cough, you must first understand the man. Asterisk. Only after this long conversation does your mentor move to the physical. She doesn't use a stethoscope or a thermometer. Her tools are her senses. She asks the wife to describe the sound of the kofais, it dry and sharp, or deep and rattling. She asks about the color of the phlegm, a key diagnostic sign. She gently presses on her own chest, asking the woman to point to the exact place where her husband feels the most pain. It's a process of diagnosis by proxy, relying on the detailed, intimate knowledge of a loved one. Asterisk then, she tells the young woman that she will consult the ancestors to be certain of the path. She takes out her hakata again. This time, the casting feels different. It's not a lesson. It's charged with a specific purpose. She shakes the bones, her murmur a little louder, more insistent. She casts them onto the hide. The clatter of bone and shell seems to echo in the small hut. Asterisk. She studies the pattern for a long time, her brow furrowed in concentration. The story the bones tell seems to confirm her suspicions. She points to the bone representing the husband, which has landed near a piece that signifies a journey or a departure of the lost cow. It is also touching a small, twisted piece of wood that represents a spiritual entanglement or a blockage. The ancestors are not angry, she finally says, her voice reassuring. They are sad with him. His spirit is tangled in the loss of the animal. It has made his chest tight, and the sickness has found a place to sit. Asterisk. This diagnosis is a profound act of compassionate reframing. The husband is not being punished. His ancestors are not mad at him. His body is simply reacting to a spiritual and emotional wound. It's a diagnosis that removes blame and instills hope. You realize you are witnessing a form of psychotherapy, woven seamlessly with spiritual belief and herbal medicine. The lesser-known detail here is the dual nature of the diagnosis. It must not only identify the problem, but also provide a pathway to healing that is emotionally and culturally resonant for the patient. Asterisk. She does not give the woman a complex list of instructions. The healing must be simple and gentle. She turns to you. The Inzinziniba leaves, she says quietly. The ones that smell of the clean wind, and the roots of ekokelo, we dried from yesterday. It's a test. Your heart quickens. You rise and find the correct bundles of herbs from the neat rows hanging from the roof. Your hands are steady as you bring them to her. She inspects them with a nod of approval, a silent gesture that feels like the highest praise. Asterisk. She gives the young woman a portion of each. She provides clear, simple instructions. Boil the inzinoba, leaves in water, and have your husband breathe the steam to open his chest. Grind the ekokelo root into a powder and make a weak tea for him to sip, which will calm the cough and allow him to sleep. And tell him, she adds, her voice soft but firm, that the ancestors have been heard. Tell him to rest. The strength will return. Asterisk. The young woman's face, once tight with worry, has softened with relief. She has been given not just medicine, but also meaning. She understands the story of her husband's illness now, and she has a clear, tangible way to help. She gives a profuse, heartfelt thanks, leaving a small bundle of maize as a gift, and ducks back out into the twilight, her posture visibly lighter. You are left in the quiet hut, the scent of herbs hanging in the air, contemplating the incredible fusion of listening, spirituality, and botany you have just witnessed. The young woman is gone, leaving a profound sense of purpose in her wake. The consultation has anchored the day's lessons in reality. It's one thing to learn the names of plants in the abstract. It's another to see them chosen with care to ease someone's suffering. The twilight has deepened, and the air coming through the hut's entrance is cooler now, carrying the first hints of the night. Your mentor looks at you, a new intensity in her eyes. The immediate crisis of the visitor has been addressed, but the practical work is not quite finished. Asterisk, the steam and the tea will help his lungs from the inside, she says, her voice low and thoughtful, but the body also finds comfort from the outside. We will make him a poultice, a warm blanket for his chest. Asterisk, a poultice. The word itself sounds old and comforting. You have a vague idea of what it is, a soft, warm mass of something medicinal applied to the skin. It feels like a remedy from a forgotten time, something a character in a historical novel would prepare. She explains that a poultice, or isachamiso, is used to draw out soreness, to ease inflammation, or simply to provide soothing warmth to an aching part of the body. The heat helps to increase blood flow to the area, and the herbs themselves can deliver their medicinal properties directly through the skin. It is a gentle, external approach to healing that complements the internal remedies. Asterisk, she rises and selects her ingredients. She doesn't choose the powerful roots you gathered earlier. For this, she needs something different. She selects a handful of broad, soft leaves from a bundle hanging nearby the very same elephant's ear, or indel biendlavu, that she pointed out in her garden. You recall its primary use for earaches, but she explains that its gentle, anti-inflammatory properties are perfect for a chest poultice. She also takes a small wooden bowl and, using the grinding stone, quickly powders some dried ginger root isitang, which she says will provide a deep, penetrating warmth. Asterisk, your job, she indicates, is to prepare the base. She hands you a small clay pot and points to a larger gourd that contains coarsely ground sorghum meal. You scoop a few handfuls into the pot, and then add a small amount of warm water from the vessel you filled at the river this morning. You stir it with a clean stick. The mixture quickly becomes a thick, sticky paste, like a very rustic, unappetizing porridge. It's a simple, effective medium for holding the herbs together and retaining heat. The historical fact here is that many cultures have used a starchy base like flour, bread, or grains to create poultices. The genius of indigenous medicine is using what is readily available. Asterisk, while you are mixing the paste. She takes the elephant's ear leaves and wilts them carefully over the glowing coals of the hearth. She doesn't burn them, but holds them just close enough to the heat that they become soft, pliable, and slightly darker in color. This process, she explains, helps to release the plant's medicinal oils. The leaves give off a faint, green, slightly earthy scent as they warm. It's a smell of pure, unadulterated nature. Asterisk, she brings the softened leaves over to your workspace. She tears them into smaller pieces and adds them to the sorghum paste in the bowl, along with a generous pinch of the powdered ginger. Now, you stir it all together. The thick paste is now flecked with dark green from the leaves and pale yellow from the ginger. The aroma is wonderful, warm, earthy, and spicy. It smells like healing. Asterisk, the next step is the application. Of course, you don't have the patient here with you. We will practice, she says. She gestures to a soft, clean piece of goatskin laid out on a mat. This will serve as your model chest. A quirky detail you learn is about the delivery system. You don't just slap the hot paste directly onto the skin. That would be messy and could cause a burn. Instead, she shows you how to spread the warm, thick mixture onto a piece of clean, woven cloth, about the size of a man's chest. You use a smooth, flat stick to spread it evenly, like you're icing a very strange, lumpy cake. The heat from the paste warms your fingers through the cloth. Asterisk, once the poultice is prepared, she shows you how it would be placed paste side down directly onto the patient's chest. Another layer of cloth would go on top, and then the patient would be covered with a warm blanket. The warmth, she says, tapping the goatskin, tells the body it is safe to relax. The herbs tell the muscles to release their tightness. The spirit feels cared for, and so it is more willing to heal. The poultice is as much a psychological comfort as it is a physical remedy. It's a tangible, warming sign that someone is caring for you. Asterisk, you wonder about the precision of it all. How warm is too warm? How long should it stay on? Your mentor's answer is, as always, rooted in sensory wisdom rather than clocks and thermometers. It should be as warm as a sun-baked rock in the late afternoon, she says, a beautiful and surprisingly specific metric. Not so hot that it bites the skin, and it stays until the warmth has gone. Then the body has taken all the help it needs from it. Asterisk, historians who study traditional medicine often debate the role of transdermal absorption, that is, how effectively medicines can pass through the skin, while some compounds are absorbed more easily than others. There is little doubt that the combination of heat, moisture, and herbal compounds in a poultice can have a significant effect on local inflammation and pain. But to the Zulu healer, the question is irrelevant. It works. The warmth soothes, the scent calms, the patient feels better. The separation between pharmacology and compassionate care does not exist. Asterisk, you gently fold the cloth around the now cooling paste. Your first poultice is complete. It's a humble-looking thing, a lumpy, greenish-brown packet, but you feel a small surge of pride. You have taken simple, raw elements from the earth and, with your own hands, transformed them into a tool of comfort and healing. In the deepening dark of the hut, illuminated only by the soft orange glow of the coals, you understand that medicine is not always a pill or a potion. Sometimes, it is as simple as a warm, heavy weight on the chest, a fragrant steam to breathe, and the quiet knowledge that you are not alone in your sickness. The last of the twilight has faded from the sky, and a deep, velvety darkness has fallen over the homestead. The only light in the hut now comes from the soft, rhythmic pulsing of the coals and the hearth. The air is still, and the sounds of the night, the chirping of crickets, the distant call of a nightjar beginning to rise. A comfortable quiet settles between you and your mentor. The day has been long and full, a dense tapestry of new feelings, skills, and ideas. You feel tired, but it's a good kind of tired, the kind that comes from useful work and a focused mind. Asterisk, just when you think it might be time to unroll the sleeping mats, your mentor makes a soft sound of satisfaction. The mind has worked. The hands have worked, she says. Now, the belly. She rises and moves to a corner of the hut where a large, lidded clay pot sits. Lifting the lid, she releases a warm, slightly sweet, and nutty aroma into the air. Dinner. Asterisk, she ladles a thick, steaming porridge into two simple wooden bowls. It's a pale, creamy color, and a single glance tells you this is the staple. The bedrock of the Zulu diet, sorghum meal, or amabel. This versatile grain, a widely accepted historical fact, has been a primary food source in southern Africa for centuries. It's hardy, drought-resistant, and can be ground into flour for porridge, bread, or brewed into a traditional, low-alcohol beer. Tonight, it is served as isagenji, a comforting porridge, enriched with mashed pumpkin, which gives it a subtle sweetness and a beautiful pale orange hue. Asterisk, she hands you a bowl and a carved wooden spoon. There is no table, no fanfare. You both sit on your mats near the gentle warmth of the fire and eat in a comfortable silence. The porridge is thick, smooth, and deeply satisfying. It's not complex, not bursting with a dozen different spices. It is simple, nourishing, and honest. It tastes of the earth. After a day of profound spiritual and intellectual learning, this humble meal is a grounding force, a reminder of the simple, physical needs of the body. Asterisk, as you eat, your mentor begins to speak, her voice taking on the familiar, melodic cadence of a storyteller. The work of the day is done, and now is the time for a different kind of nourishment. Let me tell you of the chameleon, she begins, her eyes focused on the glowing embers, as if she is reading the story there. Asterisk, she tells you a traditional Zulu folktale, it's the story of why humans are mortal. In the beginning, the great creator, Unkalunku, decided to grant humans immortality. He sent his message with the chameleon, a slow and deliberate creature. "Go," he said, "and tell the people they shall live forever." The chameleon set off on its slow, ponderous journey, but along the way, it became distracted. It stopped to eat a fly. It paused to admire the color of a leaf. It took its time. Seeing the chameleon's lack of urgency, Unkalunku * became impatient. He then sent a second messenger, the swift and nimble lizard, with a different message. "Go," he commanded the lizard, "and tell the people they must die." The lizard, being fast and focused, darted across the land and arrived long before the chameleon. It delivered its grim message, and so, mortality was sealed for humankind. The slow-moving chameleon finally arrived, breathless and late, with the original, joyful news, but it was too late. The second word had been accepted as fate. * You listen, captivated. The story is simple, almost childlike, but it's layered with meaning. It's a whimsical explanation for one of life's greatest mysteries, but it is also a lesson. It's a commentary on the importance of speed and decisiveness, but also, perhaps, a gentle critique of a creator who would change his mind so quickly. The quirky detail is in the cultural perception of the chameleon. In many Western cultures, chameleons are seen as symbols of adaptability and change. But here, in this story, the chameleon is a symbol of fatal hesitation. Its slow, careful nature, the very cause of humanity's greatest sorrow. * Your mentor follows this tale with another. This one about the clever jackal who outwits a powerful lion, not with strength, but with his sharp mind. Then she tells a story about the great Tugla River and how it was formed from the tears of a grieving goddess. These are more than just bedtime stories. They are the vehicles for tradition, morality, and cosmology. They are the oral textbooks of the Zulu people, teaching the listener about the natural world, the social order, and the essential values of the community: wisdom over strength, the importance of community, and the consequences of one's actions. * Historians and folklorists still debate the origins and variations of these tales. Many stories exist in different forms across various Bantu-speaking cultures, suggesting an ancient, shared oral tradition that has branched and evolved over centuries. Were these stories meant as literal explanations for natural phenomena, or as metaphorical guides for human behavior? The answer, as with so much of what you are learning, is likely both. They operate on multiple levels at once, entertaining children while instructing adults. * The fire has burned down so low that the coals are now just a faint, cherry-red glow in the center of the dark hut. Your bowl is empty, and a pleasant warmth spreads through your belly. Your eyelids feel heavy. The stories have acted as a gentle digestive, helping you to process not just the food, but the dense experiences of the day. They have provided a soft, imaginative buffer between the intensity of your training and the deep rest of sleep. * Your mentor's voice grows softer, slower, the tale she is telling now winding down like a clock. You can barely keep your eyes open. The stories have done their work. They have entertained, they have educated, and now they are lulling you into a state of deep peace. You lie back on your mat, the storyteller's voice a gentle murmur in the darkness. The last conscious sound you hear before you drift away into a dreamless sleep. You wake with a start, not to the gentle gray light of dawn, but to the deep star-filled blackness of the true night. The fire is completely out, a circle of cold ash in the center of the hut. For a moment, you are disoriented. A strange, rhythmic sound has pulled you from your sleep. It's a soft, percussive click-clack, accompanied by a low, almost inaudible humming. Your eyes adjust to the profound darkness, and you can just make out the silhouette of your mentor. * She is sitting upright on her mat. A small oil lamp, just a clay saucer with a wick, floating in animal fat casting, a tiny flickering pool of light beside her. In her lap is a small gourd bowl, filled with hundreds of tiny, colorful glass beads. She is beating. Her hands move with a mesmerizing speed and precision that is impossible to follow in the dim light. She threads a needle with a fine thread made from sinew, spears a single bead from the bowl, and stitches it to a leather band, all in a single, fluid motion. The click-clack is the sound of the needle tapping the side of the gourd as she selects the next bead. Asterisk, you sit up slowly, not wanting to disturb her concentration. She glances over, her eyes reflecting the tiny flame. The night is quiet, she says softly. It is a good time for small work that requires a clear mind. She gestures to a small basket beside her. Come, your hands can learn while the world sleeps. Asterisk, you move closer, settling beside her in the small circle of light. The basket contains the raw materials, more loose beads in vibrant primary colors: red, blue, white, and black, and a simple leather thong. She is not just making a pretty decoration. She is teaching you another language. The intricate and colorful beadwork of the Zulu people, a widely accepted historical fact, is a complex system of communication known as, you can see. It's a form of symbolic expression where colors, color combinations, and geometric patterns all hold specific meanings. It is, quite literally, a way of writing letters and conveying messages without a written alphabet. Asterisk, she picks up a single, white bead and holds it in the palm of her hand. White, she says, is for purity, for love that is true and without doubt. It is the color of the new moon, of hope. She then picks up a black bead. Black is for sorrow, for loneliness, the color of a world without you. But, she adds, a crucial clarification, it can also mean marriage, the dark earth of a new home. The meaning, you learn, is all about context. The colors that surround a bead can change its entire significance. Asterisk, she shows you the lexicon. Red is for passion, for intense love, but also for anger and heartache. Blue, the color of the sky and the sea, can represent faithfulness, but if placed next to a yellow bead, the color of wealth, but also of withering, it can mean pining away. Green is for contentment and new life. Pink, a color that only became common after the introduction of beads from European traders, signifies poverty or a promise not yet fulfilled, because it is a thin or weak version of the powerful red. This sophisticated visual language allowed for a huge range of expression. A young woman could send a message of love, acceptance, or rejection to a suitor through the pattern on a small bracelet. Asterisk, the quirky detail that fascinates you is the use of geometric shapes. A triangle, the most common motif, represents a family unit. If the triangle points up, it signifies an unmarried man, a single spear. If it points down, it represents an unmarried woman, an empty vessel. Two triangles joined at the base to form a diamond shape signify a married woman. Two triangles joined at their points to form an hourglass shape represent a married man. By combining these shapes with different colors, one could convey incredibly specific messages. I am a married woman diamond, and I am happy in my home green center, but I miss my family black border. It is a form of poetry, dense with symbolism. Asterisk, your mentor tasks you with a simple exercise. Stringing a simple pattern of white and blue beads onto the leather thong. Your fingers, which felt so capable grinding herbs and mixing a poultice, are now clumsy and slow. The beads are tiny, the hole in the center, almost microscopic. You drop them. You struggle to thread the sinew. You feel like a giant fumbling with dollhouse furniture. Your mentor watches, not with impatience, but with a quiet understanding. The first row is always the most difficult, she says. Your fingers must learn the way. Asterisk, as you work, your eyes slowly adjusting to the low light. She explains that beadwork is not just for communication. It is also for spiritual protection. Certain patterns and colors are believed to ward off negative energy or illness. An isangoma like her might wear specific combinations of beads to enhance her connection to the ancestors, or to protect her during a difficult healing ritual. The beads she is working on, a complex band of black, red, and white, are for a patient who is suffering from a spiritual affliction. The beadwork is part of the prescription, a tangible, wearable piece of medicine. Asterisk historians still debate the evolution of this bead language, while beads made from shell, bone, and clay have been used for millennia. The explosion of color and complexity came with the arrival of glass beads from Portuguese traders in the 16th century. How much of the symbolic language predates this, and how much was developed in response to this new, vibrant artistic palette? It's a question that is difficult to answer, as the beadwork itself is the primary historical record. Asterisk, your small string of beads is a mess. The tension is uneven, the pattern slightly off. But it is a start. You hold it up, a simple line of alternating blue and white. Faithfulness and purity. It is the beginning of a sentence. In the deep, quiet heart of the African night, surrounded by the scent of old smoke and the clicking of a needle, you are learning that healing is not just about herbs and bones. It is also about beauty, about communication, and about the silent, powerful language woven into a string of tiny, colorful glass beads. Your beading lesson comes to a gentle close as a faint, pearly gray light begins to dilute the darkness outside. It's the first hint of the coming dawn, the time your mentor calls the waking of the sky. She carefully puts away her beadwork, her movements as precise and deliberate in the near darkness as they are in the full light of day. You have a new appreciation for the dexterity in her hands, a skill that translates from grinding stones to divination bones to the tiny, intricate world of beads. Asterisk, she looks at you, your clumsy but completed string of beads resting on your lap. A soft smile touches her lips. The hands have their own language, she says. Now you must learn the language of the breath. She rises and indicates that you should follow her outside. You emerge from the hut into the same cool, clean, pre-dawn air you experienced yesterday. It feels familiar now, comforting. The world is quiet, holding its breath before the explosion of birdsong that will announce the sun. Asterisk, instead of facing the dawn, she leads you to a clear, flat space in the center of the homestead. She sits, not kneeling this time, but cross-legged on the bare earth, her back perfectly straight, her hands resting lightly on her knees. She gestures for you to sit opposite her. Healing is not always a thing you give, she explains, her voice a low, resonant hum in the morning stillness. Sometimes, it is a space you create, a quiet you build, so the patient's own spirit can do the work. We build this quiet with song. Asterisk, you brace yourself slightly. You are not a singer. The idea of singing a traditional Zulu healing song in front of this woman of immense spiritual gravity is frankly terrifying. Your vocal contributions are usually limited to humming off-key in the car. She seems to sense your apprehension. A healing song is not for an audience, she says, her tone gentle but firm. It has no need for a beautiful voice. It only needs an honest breath. It is a tool, like a digging stick. Asterisk, she begins to demonstrate. She closes her eyes, and a sound emerges from her that is unlike anything you have heard before. It is not singing in the Western sense of melody and harmony. It is a low, continuous chant, a drone that seems to vibrate not just in the air, but in the ground beneath you. The sound is rooted deep in her chest, a steady, powerful hum that rises and falls in a subtle, cyclical pattern. It's a sound that feels older than language, the sound of the earth itself breathing. This is a form of traditional chanting, a widely accepted historical fact in many shamanic and healing traditions around the world, used to alter consciousness and create a meditative, focused state. Asterisk, she chants for a full minute, her body perfectly still, and you feel the rhythm of it starting to settle your own racing thoughts. It's hypnotic. The sound seems to fill the vast open space around you, a single, steady note in the great silence of the dawn. Then, as smoothly as she began, she fades to silence. Asterisk, the song must be a circle, she instructs, with no beginning and no end. You must breathe from your belly, not your chest, so the sound does not break. She guides you through the process. You place a hand on your stomach, and she teaches you how to draw a breath so deep it pushes your hand outward. It's a struggle at first. Your breathing is shallow, lodged in your upper chest, a habit of a tense, modern life. Let the air fall into you, she coaches. Do not pull it. Asterisk, finally, you get it. A deep, full breath that seems to fill your entire torso. Now, she says, release it with a sound, the lowest sound your body can make. Do not force it. Just open your mouth and let it out. You feel impossibly self-conscious. You take a deep breath, and on the exhale, you produce a weak, wavering hum that sounds more like a malfunctioning refrigerator than a sacred chant. It's pathetic. You stop, embarrassed. Asterisk, your mentor doesn't laugh. She simply nods. Good, she says, to your utter astonishment. You have found the string. Now we weave. She instructs you to try again, but this time, to join her. She begins her low, resonant chant, and you take a deep breath and add your own voice to it. Your sound is thin and reedy next to hers, but by focusing on her powerful drone, you find a place for your own voice to exist. You are not performing. You are contributing. You are adding your small thread to her strong one. Asterisk, the quirky detail she shares is about the purpose of the different tones. A very low, vibrating chant, she explains, is used to calm a frantic or agitated spirit. It is a grounding force, a sonic anchor. A higher, more rhythmic chant, which she demonstrates with a series of pulsing notes, is used to awaken a sluggish or depressed spirit, to call it back into the body. The song is a diagnostic tool and a prescription all in one, tuned to the specific needs of the patient. Historians of ethnomusicology still explore the profound psychoacoustic effects of these traditional chants, debating how these specific frequencies might impact brainwaves and emotional states. Asterisk, you continue to chant together as the eastern sky begins to bleed with color, from deep violet to soft rose. Your voice grows stronger, more confident. The initial self-consciousness melts away, replaced by a sense of deep connection to your mentor, to the earth beneath you. To the act of making this simple, powerful sound, you are not just humming. You are learning to control your breath, to focus your intention, and to create a field of calm energy with nothing but your own body. Asterisk. You realize that this is perhaps the most intimate and fundamental form of medicine she has taught you. You don't need a garden, or a foraging basket, or a set of bones. This tool you carry with you, always. It is the ability to transform your own breath into a force for healing. As the first ray of sun crests the hill and touches your face, you are still chanting, your two voices joined together in a single circular song, a quiet hum that welcomes the new day. The healing chant fades as naturally as it began, the last note hanging in the air for a moment before dissolving into the growing chorus of birdsong. The sun is now fully visible, a dazzling disk of orange fire painting the underside of a few high, thin clouds. The day has officially arrived, and with it comes a sense of gentle finality. You have the distinct feeling that your intensive apprenticeship is drawing to a close. Asterisk, your mentor remains seated on the earth, her eyes still closed for a long moment after the song has ended. When she opens them, her gaze is clear and calm, and she looks at you with an expression of quiet appraisal. It's the look of a teacher evaluating a student's progress. You hope you haven't failed the exam. Asterisk, the work is a circle, she says, her voice returning to its normal, conversational tone. We begin with the sun, and we end with the sun. Let us watch it finish its journey for the day. It's not an instruction for another lesson. but an invitation to share a moment of quiet reflection. Asterisk, she rises, and you follow, instead of going back to the hut or to the tasks of the homestead. She leads you to the edge of the umuzi, near the thorny acacia branch fence that encloses and protects the community. There, a simple log has been placed, worn smooth from years of use. It's a perfect vantage point, offering an uninterrupted view of the rolling hills to the west, which are still bathed in the soft, angled light of the morning. You both sit on the log, a mentor and apprentice, side by side. Asterisk, for a long time, neither of you speaks. The comfortable silence of the early morning gives way to the gentle hum of the fully awakened homestead behind you. The sounds that were once unfamiliar are now a comforting backdrop. The rhythmic thud of a pestle and a mortar, the distant shouts of children playing a game with stones, the lowing of the cattle being led out to pasture. You have, in a remarkably short time, become attuned to the rhythms of this place. Asterisk, you have learned of the ancestors, of the plants, and of the spirit, she says, her gaze fixed on the horizon, but none of it has meaning without this. She gestures with her chin to the community around you. The healing is not for the healer. It is for the people. We are simply the keepers of the tools. A spade is useless if it does not dig the garden that feeds the family. This is the essential historical fact of her role. The isangoma, or inyanga, was not an isolated mystic living in a remote cave. They were integral, respected, and essential members of the community. Their knowledge and skills, a communal resource. Asterisk, she speaks of her own training. Years spent as a young apprentice, much like you. She talks about the mistakes she made, the remedies that failed, the times her interpretations of the bones were clouded by her own fears. It's a moment of profound and disarming humility. She is not a figure of infallible magic. She is a woman who has dedicated her entire life to a difficult, demanding craft, a path of lifelong learning. Asterisk, she shares a quirky, lesser-known detail about the social role of the healer. Sometimes, she explains, the remedy for a person's illness has nothing to do with herbs. She tells of a time a man came to her with a persistent, debilitating backache. The bones told her there was no spiritual affliction, and no herbs seemed to touch the pain. After much conversation, she discovered the man was locked in a bitter dispute with his brother over a single cow. The anger and resentment, she explains, had settled in his back. So, the muthi I prescribed was a conversation, she says with a wry smile. I instructed him to sit with his brother and share a pot of beer, and not to leave until the argument was resolved. The next day, his backache was gone. She is not just a doctor. She is a mediator, a counselor, and a social worker. Her work aimed at restoring not just the health of the individual, but the harmony of the community. Asterisk, you sit together on the log for what feels like hours, watching as the sun completes its long, slow arc across the brilliant blue sky. The world is painted in changing light, from the sharp, clear white of midday to the soft, golden tones of the afternoon. She points out things you would never have noticed before. She shows you how the direction of the wind can be read in the ripple of the tall grass, how a particular bird's call signals a change in the weather. Your senses feel sharper, your awareness of the world around you heightened. Asterisk, as the sun begins its final, glorious descent, the sky transforms into a masterpiece of color. Fiery oranges, deep purples, and soft pinks bleed into one another. The rolling hills are thrown into sharp silhouette, their familiar shapes now dark and mysterious against the blaze of light. The beauty of it is overwhelming, primal. There are no buildings to block the view, no wires to slice the sky. It is just the earth and the light, in their most elemental and magnificent form. Asterisk, historians and archaeologists can only guess at the daily emotional and aesthetic lives of people in the past. What was it like to witness this spectacle every single day? To have your life so intimately governed by the rising and setting of the sun? Was it a mundane event? Or did it always retain a sense of awe and wonder? Sitting here now, you feel a profound sense of the sacred in this daily ritual. It's the clock by which this entire culture operates, a source of constancy and wonder. Asterisk, the ancestors love a beautiful sunset. Your mentor says softly, as if sharing a great secret. It reminds them that, even in endings, there is beauty, and that the darkness is only a temporary rest before the light returns. Asterisk, you watch until the last sliver of the sun disappears behind the farthest hill, leaving the world in a wash of soft, purple twilight. The first star appears in the darkening sky. The day is done. Your lessons are complete. You have come full circle, ending the day as you began it, in quiet contemplation of the world's simple, profound, and unending beauty. The deep blue of twilight settles over the land, and the air grows cooler, carrying the scent of wood smoke as evening fires are lit across the homestead. The world outside is sinking into a gentle hush, but your education has one final, crucial chapter. You follow your mentor back into the familiar, comforting darkness of her hut. She rekindles the fire in the hearth, not with the quick efficiency of the morning, but with a slow, deliberate care, as if this fire is special. The flames catch, casting dancing, distorted shadows against the curved grass walls, making the small space feel like a self-contained universe. Asterisk, you both settle onto your mats, the fire crackling and spitting between you. The atmosphere is different from last night's storytelling. That was for relaxation, a gentle slide into sleep. Tonight feels more significant, like a final lecture from a beloved professor. You have seen the tools and learned some of the words, she says, her voice a low murmur that blends with the sound of the fire. But to understand the heart of our healing, you must understand the shape of the world. Asterisk, she begins to tell you the Zulu origin story, the great myth of creation. It's a story you won't find in any textbook, a piece of oral scripture passed down through countless generations. In the beginning, she explains, there was nothing but darkness and a single, vast swamp, a place called Uth. Out of this primordial wetland, a single reed grew, tall and strong. This was no ordinary plant. As it grew, it gave birth to the first man, who was also named Unkalunku, the very great one. This figure is both the first human and the creator god, a complex duality that sits at the center of their cosmology. He was, in essence, the first ancestor. Asterisk, as you listen, you realize that the widely accepted historical fact of Unkalunku as a creator deity is far more nuanced than you ever imagined. He was not a distant, all-powerful god who created the world from on high. He was born from the earth, from the marsh itself. He then broke off or created all other things from the reeds of the swamp, other people, the cattle, the wild animals, the mountains, the rivers, and the sky. He organized the world, gave things their names, and established the social order. He taught people how to hunt, how to build huts, and how to honor the ancestors. Asterisk, the firelight flickers across your mentor's face as she describes this genesis. Her hands move, shaping the air as she speaks of mountains being formed and rivers being laid down. It's a story of emergence, not creation from nothing. Everything, she emphasizes, comes from the same source, the same great swamp. The people, the animals, the land itself, they are all relatives, all made of the same essential stuff. This is a profound ecological and spiritual statement. It frames humanity not as the masters of nature, but as a part of it, with a deep, intrinsic connection to every rock, river, and living creature. Asterisk, she then shares a quirky and lesser-known aspect of the cosmology, the role of the sky. The sky, she explains, is seen as a solid blue rock, and the sun and moon are beings who travel across it each day and night. But the most interesting part is the story of the heavens themselves. There is not just one reality, but several. Below the earth is the world of the ancestors, the Esabain, which is not a place of punishment or sorrow, but a calm, shadowy reflection of the world above. Above the sky is another world, a celestial realm. Illness and misfortune can sometimes be caused by a misalignment or a conflict between these different layers of reality. A healer's job is sometimes to travel in a trance state between these worlds to restore balance. Asterisk, you ask her about evil, about the source of deliberate malice. She tells you about umthakathi, a word often translated as witch or sorcerer. But she describes it not as a cartoon character with a pointy hat, but as a human being who, through jealousy, greed, or anger, chooses to turn their power toward harming others. They use their knowledge of muthi, not to heal, but to curse. They are the ultimate disruptors of social harmony. An umthakathi, she says, her voice grim, is someone who has forgotten that we all grew from the same reed. They try to poison the swamp for everyone. A healer's work is often a direct struggle against the chaos and illness spread by these individuals. Asterisk. Historians and religious scholars still debate the structure and origins of Zulu cosmology, in part because it was never written down in a single, authoritative text. It was a fluid, living system of belief, with regional variations and stories that evolved over time. Was the creation myth always centered on Uhlanga, or were there other, older traditions that were eventually absorbed or replaced? Without written records, the answers are locked in the stories themselves, and in the memories of the elders who kept them. Asterisk, the fire burns low, the wood collapsing into a bed of glowing, breathing coals. The stories have filled the small hut, expanding your understanding of everything you have learned. The reverence for the ancestors now makes perfect sense. They are the direct link back to the Creator. The ethical, respectful foraging of plants is not just a sustainable practice. It is a way of honoring your relatives, the plants themselves. The fight against illness is not just a biological struggle. It is a spiritual battle to maintain the harmony and order that Unkalunku first established. Asterisk, your mentor falls silent, letting the weight of the story settle in the warm, dark air. She has given you the final, most important key, the map of the universe. With this map, every herb, every ritual, every chant, and every bead has its proper place. It is the framework that holds the entire system of healing together. A beautiful, complex, and deeply human way of making sense of the world. The last of the great stories has been told. The fire in the hearth has died down to a soft, pulsing orange glow, a warm, sleeping heart in the center of the hut. The profound stillness of the hour before dawn, the deepest point of the night, has settled over the world. Your mind is full, saturated with images of creation myths, the rustle of medicinal leaves, and the clatter of deafening bones. You feel a deep, bone-weary tiredness, but also a sense of incredible wholeness, as if a missing piece of your own understanding of the world has been gently clicked into place. Asterisk. Your mentor seems to sense this. She doesn't need to say that your time together is ending. The feeling hangs in the warm, smoky air between you. She unrolls your familiar reed mat and her own, placing them on opposite sides of the dying fire. There are no grand farewells, no certificates of completion. The end of your apprenticeship is as quiet and as natural as its beginning. It is simply time to rest. Asterisk, you lie down on the mat, the woven texture, a familiar press against your back. You pull a soft animal skin over you, its weight comforting and warm. Your mentor does the same, and soon. The only sound in the hut is the soft sigh of the last embers and the slow rhythmic sound of her breathing. You close your eyes, expecting sleep to come instantly, but your mind is still gently turning, replaying the events of your journey. Asterisk, you hear the whisper of the cool morning air as you first stepped out of the hut. You feel the shocking, life-affirming cold of the river water on your face. You can smell the sharp, clean scent of the inzinzenaba leaves, the earthy aroma of the roots you dug from the veldt, the sweet, nutty fragrance of the sorghum porridge. You hear the hypnotic shove thump of the grinding stone, the dry rattle of the hakata being cast, the low, vibrating hum of the healing chant. These are not just memories. They are sensory echoes, imprinted on you in a way that feels permanent. Asterisk. And then, as you lie in the quiet darkness, a new symphony begins. It's the sound of the homestead sleeping, the final lesson of the day. It's a sound you were deaf to when you first arrived, but one you can now hear with perfect clarity. It is the gentle, rhythmic chewing of the cattle in their enclosure, a soft, munching sound that speaks of safety and contentment. It is the almost inaudible rustle of the thatch roof as a light breeze passes over it. It is the distant, lonely cry of a bush baby, a sound that is not frightening, but simply a part of the vast, living tapestry of the night. From a neighboring hut, you hear the soft murmur of a sleeping child, a brief whimper, followed by a deep sigh, as they settle back into a dream. Asterisk. These are the sounds of peace, of a community at rest, secure in the rhythms of a life lived in close connection with the earth. This is the goal of all the work you have witnessed. This quiet, this safety, this is what the healer works to preserve. The historical fact is that the well-being of the individual and the well-being of the community were inextricably linked. A person could not be truly healthy if their community was in turmoil, and the community could not be healthy if its members were unwell. The healer's role was to maintain this delicate, essential balance. Asterisk. A quirky detail you notice is the sound of the dogs. Throughout the night, a soft woof is exchanged from one end of the homestead to the other. It is not an alarm, but a gentle, intermittent check-in, a kind of all's well here, how about there? Conversation carried on in the dark. It is the sound of a living security system, an ancient and effective network of soft alarms. Asterisk. Historians often struggle to reconstruct the nocturnal soundscape of past societies. What did a night in a 19th century Zulu homestead sound like? Without recordings, we are left to imagine. But lying here, you feel you are listening to it. It's a soundscape defined by the absence of modern noise, no humming refrigerators, no distant traffic, no electronic beeps. It is a silence filled with the gentle, organic sounds of life, both human and animal, breathing together in the dark. Asterisk. Your own breathing begins to deepen, to fall in sync with the slow, steady rhythm of your mentors. The sounds of the night are no longer individual notes, but a single, continuous lullaby. The chewing of the cattle, the rustle of the thatch, the call of the bush baby, the soft breathing from across the hut, they all merge into one. It is the sound of the world turning slowly, safely, toward the dawn. You feel your consciousness begin to dissolve, your thoughts thinning out, drifting away like smoke. You are not just in a hut, you are inside a living, breathing organism, held safely in the heart of the sleeping homestead. And as the last embers of the fire finally wink out, leaving the hut in complete and total darkness, you fall into the deepest, most peaceful sleep you have ever known. Asterisk. Word count 1045. Asterisk. The world around you softens and fades, the gentle sounds of the homestead dissolving into the quiet hum of your own peaceful breathing. The journey is over, but the sense of calm it brought remains with you, a warm, heavy blanket settling over your limbs and your mind. There is nothing left for you to do, nothing to figure out, nothing to remember. All that is required now is to rest, to allow your body to grow heavy and your mind to grow still. Asterisk. Feel the gentle rhythm of your breath, a slow and easy tide rising and falling without any effort at all. Each breath in brings a wave of calm, and each breath out carries away the last remnants of the day, the last lingering thoughts. Imagine the vast, quiet hills of Zulu land stretching out under a brilliant canopy of stars. A world sleeping soundly under the silent, watchful gaze of the cosmos. You are a part of that great and peaceful rest. Asterisk. Let your body sink deeper into the comfort of your bed, feeling completely supported, completely safe. The story is finished, the work is done, and the night has opened its arms to hold you. There is only stillness now, a deep and profound peace that fills every part of you. Allow yourself to drift on this quiet, silent river, letting it carry you gently and effortlessly into a deep and restorative sleep. Sweet dreams.